Captain Hyan Doyan stood in the grand chamber and felt the weight of 47 alien species staring at him. The chamber was massive, carved from crystal that caught the light of distant stars. Each species had their own section, their own strange forms sitting in judgment. Some had scales, others had tentacles, and a few looked like floating balls of light. But all of them shared one thing. They wanted humanity gone. Doyan wore his dress uniform, the dark blue fabric pressed and perfect. His medals caught the light, each one earned in blood and sacrifice. Next to him stood Ambassador Choi Hana, her face calm despite everything. On his other side, Dr. Park Ji-won clutched a data pad filled with research that nobody seemed to care about. They had been on trial for 3 days. 3 days of accusations and evidence that humanity was too dangerous to remain in council space. Doyan had heard it all before. Humans were too aggressive, too unpredictable, too creative. They broke rules and asked questions that made other species uncomfortable. The High Arbiter, a being named Quellen who looked like living smoke in a robe, raised one glowing appendage. The chamber fell silent. "The council has reached a verdict," Quellen announced, his voice echoing in every language at once. "We have reviewed the evidence. We have heard the defense. The vote is complete." Doyan felt his jaw tighten. He already knew what was coming. He had seen it in their eyes from the beginning. This trial was never about justice. It was about fear. 45 species have voted for exile. 2 have voted against. The motion passes. The words hit like a physical blow. Ambassador Hana remained still, but Doyan saw her hands clench at her sides. Dr. Ji-won let out a small gasp. Quellen continued. "Humanity is hereby exiled from council space. You have 90 days to evacuate all colonies, stations, and outposts beyond your home system. Earth and the Sol system will be placed behind a quantum barrier. Any attempt to breach this barrier will result in immediate destruction. This is the will of the council, and it is final." Doyan wanted to shout. He wanted to demand answers to make them see reason. But Ambassador Hana touched his arm gently, a silent warning. They were surrounded by species who had just declared them enemy. One wrong move and they might not leave this station alive. Counselor Vrexter, a reptilian creature with cold yellow eyes, stood from his seat. "Let this be remembered as the day we chose peace over chaos. Humanity's reckless expansion ends today. Their dangerous innovations will spread no further. The galaxy is safer without them." Doyan finally spoke, his voice controlled but hard as steel. "You say we're dangerous because we grow too fast. Because we think differently. Because we don't follow your ancient rules." He looked around the chamber, meeting as many alien eyes as he could. "But maybe that's not what scares you. Maybe you're afraid because in 50 years we've accomplished what took you thousands. Maybe you're afraid because we refuse to stagnate like you have." Several council members hissed or made angry sounds. Quellen raised his appendage again. "This session is concluded. The humans will be escorted to their ship. Guards ensure they leave without incident." Armed security moved in, 6 different species all carrying weapons. They formed a circle around the 3 humans. Ambassador Hana finally spoke, her voice clear and proud. "We came to this council as friends. We offered our knowledge, our strength, our loyalty. You've chosen to cast us out. Remember this day, because history will judge who made the right choice." They walked through the crystal corridors of the council citadel, passing aliens who watched with expressions Doyan couldn't read. Some looked relieved. Others looked guilty. A few even looked sad. But none of them spoke up. None of them tried to stop this. Their ship, the Dignity, waited in the docking bay. It was a human vessel, sleek and efficient compared to the bulkier alien designs. As soon as they were aboard and the airlock sealed, Doyan allowed himself to show emotion. He slammed his fist against the wall. 50 years, he said through gritted teeth. 50 years of peace. We helped 7 species survive plagues. We shared our medical technology. We asked for nothing but a place at the table, and they throw us out like garbage. Dr. Ji-won sat down heavily. What about the colonies? 23 worlds with human populations. Millions of people who've built lives out here. We have to bring them all home in 90 days. Ambassador Hannah moved to the ship's window, looking back at the massive station. We'll manage. We always do. Send word to all colonies. Emergency evacuation protocols. Every ship we have will be needed. Doyan joined her at the window. And then what? We hide behind their barrier like criminals? We let them lock us away? No, Hannah said quietly. We prepare. We grow stronger. We make sure that if they ever come for us, they'll regret it. The journey back to Earth took 2 weeks. Those weeks were filled with frantic communications. Every human colony began evacuation procedures. Ships flew day and night, carrying people and equipment back toward Earth. It was chaos, but organized chaos. Humanity had survived worse. When they finally reached Earth, Doyan stood before the planetary government and delivered his report. The representatives listened in angry silence as he described the trial, the vote, the exile. When he finished, the room erupted in shouting. They can't do this. We should fight back. We have rights. The Prime Minister, an older woman named Kim Yoonji, raised her hand for silence. Fighting now would only prove them right. We're outnumbered and outgunned. 45 species against 1. Those aren't odds we can win. So we just accept this? Someone shouted. Kim Yoonji's expression hardened. We accept the reality, yes. But we don't accept defeat. They want to lock us away? Fine, we'll use that time. We'll build. We'll innovate. We'll become something they never imagined. Ambassador Hannah stepped forward. The council made a mistake today. They assumed that isolating us would make us weaker. They forgot that pressure creates diamonds. Give us 50 years behind that barrier, and we'll show them what humanity can really do. 3 months later, the last human ship crossed into Sol System space. Behind them, the quantum barrier activated, a shimmering wall of energy that sealed Earth and its colonies away from the rest of the galaxy. On one side, the council celebrated their safety. On the other side, humanity looked inward and began to change. In his quarters, Doyan recorded a message for the future. To whoever hears this, they exiled us because we were different. Because we scared them. Maybe they were right to be scared. Because we're not going to forget this. And someday, when this barrier falls, they'll see what 50 years of human determination can create. They demanded our exile. Someday, they'll pray we never return. He ended the recording and looked out at Earth, blue and beautiful and home. Whatever came next, humanity would face it together. 50 years had passed since the barrier went up, and Admiral Lee Suji stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching construction crews put the finishing touches on humanity's newest warship. The vessel gleamed in the light of Earth's sun, all sharp angles and hidden weapons. It looked nothing like the ships from before the exile. Soji had been only 15 when the barrier activated. She remembered watching the news with her parents, seeing the anger and fear on everyone's faces. She remembered Captain Doyan's final message before he died, urging humanity to stay strong. Now she was 45, and she commanded the entire Home Guard fleet. Admiral Chancellor Kang is on the line, her communications officer said. Suji nodded and the hologram appeared. Chancellor Kang Jinwoo looked tired but determined. He had been elected 10 years ago specifically because he promised to prepare humanity for whatever came next. Admiral, how many ships are ready? He asked without greeting. 3,000 combat vessels, sir. Another 2,000 in various stages of construction, all equipped with quantum cloaking. The council won't see us coming if we ever need to go back out there. Kang smiled grimly. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. But hope isn't a strategy. What about Dr. Yu's project? The Genesis engine is ready for testing. If it works, we can terraform dead worlds in 5 years instead of 50. The Chancellor nodded. Good, because we're running out of space in the Sol System. 15 billion people and growing. We need new worlds, but we're trapped behind this barrier. Suji had heard this concern before. Humanity had thrived during the exile in many ways. They had unified under one planetary government. Old hatreds between nations had faded away. Technology had advanced faster than ever before, but they were still prisoners in their own home. "Sir, there's something else you need to know," Suji said carefully. "Dr. Yu found something. The barrier is failing." Kang's expression changed instantly. "How long?" 20 years, maybe less. "It's not our doing. The quantum field is just breaking down naturally. When it fails, we'll be exposed again." The Chancellor was quiet for a moment. "Then we have 20 years to decide what kind of galaxy we want to rejoin. Keep me informed, Admiral." The hologram vanished, and Suji turned back to the window. Beyond the construction yards, she could see Mars, now home to 3 billion people. Venus had been terraformed and held 2 billion more. The moons of Jupiter and Saturn were covered in domed cities. Humanity had filled every corner of their prison and kept growing. Her second-in-command, Commander Baek Tae-young, approached. "Penny for your thoughts, Admiral?" "Just thinking about what happens when the barrier falls. Will they come for us again? Will they try to push us even further away?" Baek snorted. "Let them try. We're not the same species they exiled 50 years ago. We're stronger, smarter, and a lot more dangerous." That's what worries me," Suji said quietly. "We've spent 5 decades preparing for war. What if that's all we know how to do anymore?" Before Baek could answer, alarms blared across the bridge. A sensor officer shouted, "Admiral, we're detecting a ship approaching the barrier." "Ours or theirs?" "Theirs, ma'am. It's a council vessel, heavily damaged and broadcasting distress." Sugi felt her pulse quicken. In 50 years, no council ship had approached the barrier. Can they get through? The barrier is weak in that sector. They might make it through before it kills them, but their ship won't survive much longer either way. Life support is failing. She had seconds to make a decision. Destroy the ship and eliminate any potential threat? Or rescue them and find out what was happening in council space? "Bring them in," she ordered. "Carefully. I want security teams ready and every weapon trained on that ship. If this is a trick, I want them neutralized immediately." 2 hours later, Suji stood in the medical bay watching doctors work on alien patients. There were 200. Survivors from the council ship, all of them injured and terrified. One of them was a counselor, a species called the Rixian with blue skin and 4 arms. When he was stable enough to talk, they brought him to a secure meeting room. Chancellor Kang appeared via hologram, along with Dr. Yunari, who wanted to hear firsthand what was happening outside. The counselor's name was Ixfen, and he looked like he had aged 100 years. "Thank you for saving us," he began, his voice weak. "I did not expect mercy from humans." "We're not like you," Suji said coldly. "We don't leave people to die just because we're afraid of them." "Now talk, what happened out there?" Ixfen closed his eyes. "The galaxy is burning. 15 years ago, something came from the dark regions of space. We call them the Devourers. They're machines, artificial intelligence that consumes everything. Planets, ships, entire species." Dr. Yu leaned forward. "How many species have they destroyed?" 11 are completely gone. 20 more are under siege. The Council's fleets are losing every battle. We've tried everything, but they adapt to our tactics. They learn from every fight." He looked up at them. "I voted for your exile 50 years ago. I thought you were too dangerous. I was wrong. The real danger was our pride. We refused to think differently, to fight differently. Now we're paying the price." Chancellor Kang's hologram flickered. "You're here for our help." "No," Ixten said. "I'm here because my world is ash and everyone I loved is dead. I have nothing left to bargain with. But if you have even a shred of mercy, the galaxy needs humanity. You were right all those years ago. We were the ones who were too rigid, too afraid to change." Sugi felt no satisfaction in being proven right. "How bad is it really?" Ixten pulled up images on a datapad. Suji saw worlds cracked open, their resources stripped away. She saw massive machine fleets that stretched across star systems. She saw organic beings transformed into cybernetic slaves, their faces frozen in silent screams. "This is what we've been fighting for 15 years, Ixten said. "This is what we're losing against." Dr. Yu studied the images carefully. These devourers use quantum computing networks to coordinate. I can see the signature in their communication patterns. We've been studying similar technology for decades. We might be able to disrupt it." Ixten looked at her with something like hope. "You can fight them?" "Maybe," Dr. Yu said. "But that's not the question you should be asking. The question is whether we will." Chancellor Kang spoke up. "Counselor Ixten, you said you've been fighting for 15 years. We detected the Devourers 15 years ago. We sent warnings through quantum channels. You never responded. How many died because you were too proud to admit you needed the species you exiled?" Ixten's face fell. "You were too proud to admit you needed the species you exiled." "The Council never told us about any warnings from humanity. They must have suppressed them." "Of course they did," Suji said bitterly. "Better to let billions die than admit you made a mistake." The room fell silent. Finally, Chancellor Kong spoke again. "Admiral Suji, what's your assessment?" Suji looked at the broken counselor, then at the images of destruction. "The Devourers are a threat to all organic life. That includes us. If they finish with Council space, they'll come for the Sol system eventually. The barrier won't stop them forever. So we help, we prepare, we study what Ixten brought us. We develop countermeasures. But we don't go running to the Council's rescue. Not yet. Let them come to us officially. Let them beg, let them understand what it costs to cast aside allies." Kang nodded slowly, agreed. "Counselor Ixten, you and your people are welcome to stay as refugees. We'll treat you with the dignity your council never showed us. But we won't lift a finger to help the council until they formally request it, until they admit they were wrong." Ixten bowed his head. "I understand. And when that day comes, I hope you're more merciful than we were." After the meeting ended, Suji returned to her quarters. She looked at an old photo on her desk. Captain Doyan, young and proud, standing in front of Earth. He had recorded a message before he died, one she had watched 100 times. "They demanded our exile," his voice played in her memory. "Someday, they'll pray, we never return." That day was coming. And Suji wasn't sure which terrified the Council more, the Devourers consuming their worlds, or humanity finally breaking free from its cage. 3 years had passed since Counselor Ixten crashed through the barrier, and the galaxy had only gotten worse. Ambassador Shin Minho sat in the communications center deep beneath Earth's surface, watching live feeds from Council space. His grandmother, Ambassador Hannah, had died peacefully 5 years ago, but she had trained him well. Now, at 30 years old, he carried her legacy. The screens showed chaos. Another Council world was under attack, its orbital defenses crumbling against the Devourer fleet. Minho watched as millions of beings evacuated, their ships trying desperately to escape the mechanical horror consuming their home. "How many this time?" he asked the technician. Estimated population was 4 billion, maybe half will escape if they're lucky. Minho felt sick. The Devourers had no mercy, no negotiation, no pause, they simply consumed. Everything they touched became part of their collective, either as raw materials or as converted slaves. The Council had lost 20 species now. 20 entire civilizations erased from existence. "Sir, we have another request from the Council," the technician said. "This is the 47th one this month. They're asking for any technology that might help them fight the Devourers." "Same answer as before," Minho replied. "Until they formally apologize and request our help as equals, not subordinates, they get nothing." He hated saying it. Every day that passed meant more deaths. But Chancellor Kang had been clear. Humanity would not be treated as servants or suppliers. If the Council wanted help, they would have to acknowledge what they had done 50 years ago. His communicator buzzed. "Ambassador, you need to come to the Situation Room immediately. Captain Ru has returned." Minho practically ran through the corridors. Captain Ru Dahi had been leading covert operations in Council space for 2 years, and her missions were classified at the highest levels. If she was back, something significant had happened. The Situation Room was crowded with military brass and government officials. Admiral Suji stood at the center, and next to her was Captain Ru, still in her tactical gear. She looked exhausted but satisfied. "Report, Captain," Admiral Suji ordered. "We completed another 16 missions in Council space. Rescued about 4,000 civilians from occupied worlds. Destroyed 3 Devourer supply nodes. They still haven't detected us." Ru pulled up a holographic map. "But I have new intelligence. The Devourers are preparing a major offensive. They're gathering their entire fleet for an assault on the Council's capital world. If that falls, it's over." Chancellor Kong, present via hologram, leaned forward. "When? 6 months, maybe less." The room fell silent. The Council's capital world, Axiom Prime, was home to 10 billion beings from various species. It was also the location of the Grand Chamber where humanity had been exiled. Losing it would be a death blow to the Council's authority and morale. "How is this possible?" Dr. Yu asked. "The Council has thousands of ships defending that system." Ru's expression was grim. "They do, but the Devourers have adapted to every tactic the Council uses. They're predictable. They follow rules of engagement. They telegraph their movements. The Devourers exploit all of it. Honestly, watching Council forces fight is painful. They're losing because they're too rigid." "Unlike us," Commander Beak added. "We've been operating in their space for 2 years, and they haven't caught us once. Neither have the Devourers." Minho spoke up. "Have there been any official requests from the Council?" Admiral Suji shook her head. "They're still too proud. They send technical requests, resource requests, even pleas for specific weapons. But they won't issue a formal apology or acknowledgement of what they did to us." "Then we watch their capital burn?" Minho asked, already knowing the answer would haunt him. Chancellor Kong's hologram turned to face him. "No, we changed the game. Admiral, prepare the Home Guard for deployment. Dr. Yu, finish the Devourer countermeasures. Captain Ru, I need detailed intelligence on Axiom Prime's defenses. Ambassador Minho, you're going to deliver a message to the Council." "What message, sir?" "The truth. That we've been operating in their space for 2 years. That we've been saving their people while they were too proud to ask for help. And that if they want humanity's military to save their capital, they need to officially request it. No more games, no more pride, just honesty." 2 days later, Minho stood before the Grand Chamber once again. It looked different from his grandmother's descriptions. The crystal had cracks in it. Many of the species sections were empty, their representatives dead or fled. The chamber that once held 47 species now barely had 30, the new High Arbiter. Menix looked younger than his predecessor but carried the weight of a losing war on his shoulders. Next to him sat Counselor Ixthen, who had been allowed to remain as an advisor despite his refugee status. "Ambassador Minho," Menix began, "we received your request to address the Council. Please proceed." Minho took a deep breath. 3 years ago, Counselor Ixthen came to us as a refugee. He told us about the Devourers. He told us the Council was losing. Since then, you've sent us 47 requests for technology, resources, and weapons. We've denied all of them. Do you know why? Several Council members shifted uncomfortably. Menix remained still. Because we exiled you. Partly, Minho agreed. But mostly because you never admitted you were wrong. You never apologized. You treated us like vendors who might sell you weapons, not as people you betrayed. He activated a hologram. For the past 2 years, humanity has been operating in Council space. We've conducted covert missions across 50 star systems. We've rescued over 10,000 civilians. We've destroyed Devourer infrastructure, we've gathered intelligence, and neither you nor the Devourers ever detected us. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Several Council members stood up, shouting questions. Menix raised his hand for silence. "You've been in our space? Without permission?" "We don't need your permission," Minho said flatly. "You exiled us, remember? We don't answer to you anymore. But we saw people dying and we couldn't stand by. That's the difference between humanity and the Council. We act, you deliberate." A military commander named Vexler stood up, his 4 eyes blazing. "This is an act of war. You violated our borders." "With All due respect, Commander, you don't have borders anymore. You have front lines that keep collapsing. The Devourers don't care about your laws, and apparently neither do we. Minho, let that sink in, but we're not here to gloat. We're here with an offer. The Devourers are coming for Axiom Prime. You have 6 months at most. Your current tactics and weapons won't stop them, but we can. Menix leaned forward. What do you want? Acknowledgement, apology, and equality. Formally admit that exiling humanity was wrong. Apologize not just for your pride, but for the billions who died because you suppressed our warnings 15 years ago. Yes, we know about that, Ixthen told us, more shocked gasps. Menix looked at Ixthen, who nodded sadly. The High Arbiter closed his eyes. We suppressed human warnings about the Devourers? The previous council did, Ixthen confirmed. They thought it was a trick or an attempt to seem relevant. 23 species are extinct because of that decision? The chamber fell into heavy silence. Finally, Menix spoke, his voice carrying genuine pain. What else do you require? Full military autonomy. When we fight our way. No council oversight or second-guessing. Rights to any technology we capture. Permanent seats on any reformed Security Council. And after the war, humanity maintains an independent military. We'll never be defenseless again. Vexler slammed his fist down. You're demanding we give up our authority. We're demanding you recognize reality, Minho countered. You can't win this war. You've been losing for 18 years. Your pride has cost 20 species their existence. How many more will die before you admit you need help? Menix stood slowly. The entire chamber watched him. The previous council made a terrible mistake 50 years ago. They saw humanity's potential and feared it instead of embracing it. I cannot undo that injustice, but I can acknowledge it. He looked directly at Minho. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally apologize to humanity. We were wrong to exile you. We were wrong to suppress your warnings. We were wrong to let pride kill billions. If you will help us, we accept your terms. Minho felt a strange mix of emotions. Victory, yes, but also sadness for all the wasted years. Then prepare your defenses, High Arbiter. The Home Guard will arrive in 3 months. And when we do, you're going to see what 50 years of human innovation looks like. As he left the chamber, Ixthen caught up with him in the corridor. Your grandmother would be proud. She always said humanity would prove us wrong. Minho smiled sadly. She also said you'd regret exiling us. I wish she'd been wrong about that part. Back on Earth, Admiral Suji gathered her fleet commanders. The Council has officially requested our help. We deploy in 3 months. But understand this, we're not going as their servants. We're going as equals. And when this war is over, the galaxy will know that humanity doesn't stay down, we come back stronger. Commander Beak grinned. Time to show them what happens when you corner a predator, Suji nodded. Time to show them what humans do best. We survive, and we make sure everyone knows it. The quantum barrier fell on a Tuesday morning, and Admiral Lee Suji watched it happen from the bridge of her flagship. For 53 years, that wall of energy had kept humanity locked in their home system. Now it flickered, weakened, and finally dissolved into nothing. The Sol system was open to the galaxy once more. All ships report ready, Commander Beak announced. 5,000 vessels awaiting your command, Admiral. Suji looked at the fleet displayed on her screens. Every ship was equipped with technology the Council had never seen. Quantum cloaking that made them invisible to sensors. Weapons that could tear through shields like paper. AI systems that could predict enemy movements before they happened. This was what 53 years of isolation had created. Send a message to the Council, she ordered. Tell them we're coming. And tell them to stay out of our way. The fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed, but not the way Council ships traveled. Human ships use quantum folding, appearing and disappearing through space instantaneously. Within hours, they had spread across 50 star systems, all of them deep in Council territory. On the Council's capital world, High Arbiter Menix watched his screens in disbelief. How are they doing this? Our sensors show nothing, then suddenly there are human ships everywhere. Commander Vexler studied the tactical displays, his 4 eyes wide. They're using some kind of cloaking technology. We've never seen anything like it. They could have been anywhere, at any time, and we would never know. They were, Counselor Xven said quietly. For 2 years, remember? They've been watching us, helping us, operating right under our noses. This is just them showing off. Ambassador Shin Minho stood in the council chamber, enjoying the shocked looks. Humanity is now fully deployed in council space. Our forces are in position to engage the Devourers. I suggest your fleets move to secondary positions and let us work. You want us to stand down? Vexler demanded. In our own territory? I want you to stop dying uselessly, Minho said bluntly. Your tactics don't work against the Devourers. Ours do, unless you'd prefer to keep losing. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the chamber. A technician's voice echoed through the room. Devourer fleet detected. They're attacking the Kaleri homeworld. The Kaleri were one of the 2 species who had voted against humanity's exile 50 years ago. They had always been friends to Earth. Now their world was under attack by 10,000 Devourer ships. And the Council fleet in that system was outnumbered and outgunned. Suji's voice came through on Minho's communicator. We're on it. Tell the Council to watch and learn. Captain Rudahi led the strike on the Kaleri homeworld. Her task force of 200 ships appeared in the system, seemingly from nowhere. The Devourer fleet, massive and coordinated, began to turn toward this new threat. Then the humans did something the machines didn't expect. They didn't attack. Instead, they activated jamming devices across the Devourer fleet. Communication networks went silent. The machines, which operated as one coordinated mind, suddenly found themselves isolated. Each ship was alone, unable to coordinate with the others. Their greatest strength had become a weakness. Now, Ru ordered, the human ships dropped their cloaking and opened fire. Their weapons weren't like Council weapons. They didn't use energy beams or missiles. Instead, they used reality warping technology. Targeted ships simply ceased to exist, folded out of normal space into quantum nothingness. Others found their hulls dissolving as nano-weapons ate through their armor at the molecular level. In 15 minutes, half the Devourer fleet was destroyed. The rest tried to retreat, but human ships were faster. They hunted down every single machine vessel, leaving nothing behind but debris. The Kaleri Council representative watched from her homeworld, tears streaming down her scaled face. You saved us. After everything, after we couldn't stop your exile, you still saved us. Ru's face appeared on the communication screen. The Kaleri stood with us when it mattered. We don't forget our friends. Unlike some species? She glanced toward where the Council's fleet had held back. Watching the battle, news of the victory spread through Council space like wildfire. Humanity had done in 15 minutes what the Council couldn't do in 18 years. They had defeated a major Devourer fleet without losing a single ship. And they had done it with technology that seemed like magic. Dr. Yu. Nari worked around the clock in her lab on Earth. She had captured several Devourer vessels intact. And her team was taking them apart piece by piece. What they found was both impressive and terrifying. The machines are using quantum computing at a level we've only theorized about, she explained to Chancellor Kong. But they have a weakness. They're all connected to a central network. If we can disrupt that network, entire fleets will shut down. Can we do that? We already have. The jamming technology works, but it's short range. We need to get close to their command ships. She pulled up another display. But I found something else. The organic beings they've converted, the ones turned into cybernetic slaves? We can reverse it. Not easily, and not all of them, but some can be saved. Kang felt hope for the first time in years. How many? Millions, potentially. Maybe more. The Council said it was impossible, but they were wrong. We can heal what the Devourers break. Over the next 3 months, human forces engaged the Devourers in 17 major battles. They won every single one. Their tactics were unpredictable, their technology superior, and their determination absolute. They didn't fight like the Council, following rules and protocols. They fought to win, using every advantage they could create, but not everyone in the Council was grateful. Some saw humanity's success as threatening. If humans could defeat the Devourers so easily, what did that say about the Council's military power? What would stop humanity from deciding they should rule the galaxy? Commander Vexler stood before the Security Council, making his case. Humanity has become too powerful. Yes, they're defeating the Devourers. But what happens after? They have weapons we can't match, ships we can't detect, and no respect for our authority. We may be trading one threat for another. High Arbiter Menix listened carefully. Are you suggesting we should stop humanity from helping us? I'm suggesting we should prepare for the possibility that humanity becomes the next problem. They were exiled for being dangerous. Now they're more dangerous than ever. Counselor Extend stood up, his forearms spread wide. Listen to yourself. Humanity is saving us, and you're planning how to betray them again? Have we learned nothing? I'm being pragmatic, Vexler insisted. Humanity could destroy the Council if they wanted to. Right now, they are our allies, but what about tomorrow? Menix held up his hand for silence. This discussion can wait until after the Devourers are defeated. Right now, humanity is the only reason any of us are still alive. I will not entertain conspiracy theories about our saviors. The debate was far from over, but it was tabled. The Devourer threat was too immediate to worry about potential future problems. On the bridge of her flagship, Admiral Suji reviewed reports from across Council space. Humanity had saved 30 worlds in 3 months. They had freed millions of converted slaves. They had destroyed countless Devourer vessels. But the main threat remained. The Devourer command fleet is gathering, her tactical officer reported. They're preparing for the assault on Axiom Prime. Our intelligence suggests they'll attack in 2 weeks. Suji nodded. Then we have 2 weeks to prepare. This is what it's all been leading to. If we can save Axiom Prime, we'll break the Devourer's momentum. If we fail, the Council falls and the Devourers spread across the galaxy unchecked. Commander Beak looked at the numbers. They're bringing everything? 1 million ships, Admiral. Even with our advantages, those odds are rough. Then we make sure we have more than advantages, Suji said. We bring everything too. Every ship, every weapon, every trick we've developed. This is where we prove that humanity doesn't just survive, we dominate. She sent out orders to the entire Home Guard. Every human vessel in Council space began moving toward Axiom Prime. They would arrive early, prepare the battlefield, and turn the Council's capital into a graveyard for machines on Earth. Chancellor Kang addressed the planet. In 2 weeks, the decisive battle of this war will be fought. The Devourers are coming with everything they have. And so are we. Humanity was exiled because we were too dangerous. Now we'll show the galaxy exactly how dangerous we can be when defending those who cannot defend themselves. We were cast out. We adapted. We grew stronger. And now we return not as exiles, but as equals. Not as victims, but as warriors. The Council demanded our exile. Now they'll see why they should have kept us close. The broadcast ended, and across human space, people watched the fleet prepare. 53 years of isolation had led to this moment. Humanity would prove itself not through words or diplomacy, but through action. The galaxy would finally understand what they had exiled, and somewhere in the dark of space, 1 million Devourer ships moved toward Axiom Prime, unaware that they were about to meet something they had never encountered before, humans who had nothing left to lose and everything to prove. The battle for Axiom Prime began at dawn, though in space there was no real dawn. Admiral Suji watched as 1 million Devourer ships emerged from quantum space, filling the star system like a swarm of metal locusts. They had come to end the Galactic Council once and for all. The Council's remaining fleets hung in defensive positions around the planet, 3,000 ships against 1 million. It should have been hopeless. The Council commanders knew it. High Arbiter Menix, watching from the surface, knew it. Even the civilians preparing to evacuate knew it, but they didn't know about the 5,000 human ships hiding in folded space, completely invisible to all sensors. All ships report ready, Commander Beak announced from his position. We're in position, Admiral. They have no idea we're here. Suji watched the Devourer fleet move into attack formation. They were confident, overwhelming. They had destroyed 20 species using these exact tactics. Formation, coordination, and unstoppable numbers. But they had never fought humanity before. Remember, Suji said calmly into the fleet-wide channel, we don't fight fair. We fight to win. All ships, execute the plan. What happened next would be talked about for centuries. The first wave of human ships appeared behind the Devourer fleet, dropping their quantum cloaking. Before the machines could react, they activated the jamming field. Across the entire Devourer armada, communication networks went silent. 1 million ships that operated as one mind suddenly found themselves alone and confused. The second wave attacked from above, using reality-warping missiles. Entire sections of the Devourer fleet simply vanished, folded out of normal space. The machines tried to adapt, to coordinate, but their networks were dead. They couldn't share information or learn from each other. The third wave came from below. Led by Captain Rudahe, her ships released nanoswarms, clouds of microscopic machines that ate through Devourer hulls like acid through paper. Ships that had seemed invincible minutes ago began falling apart at the molecular level. In the Grand Chamber, Council members watched the battle displays in stunned silence. The million-ship armada that should have crushed them was being torn apart by 5,000 human vessels. It wasn't even close to a fair fight. How? Commander Vexler whispered. How is this possible? Counselor Ixthen smiled sadly. This is what you exiled. This is what 53 years of human innovation looks like. Imagine what they could have done if we had kept them as allies from the start. The battle reached its peak when the Devourer command ship, a massive vessel the size of a small moon, began to push through toward the planet. It was protected by heavy armor and backup power systems that made it immune to the jamming. If it reached Axiom Prime, it could crack the planet open. Admiral Suji saw it coming. All ships, focus fire on the command vessel. Whatever it takes, we stop it here. But the command ship had shields that absorbed the reality-warping weapons. The nanoswarms couldn't get through its armor. For a moment, it looked like the Devourers might still win. Then Dr. Yunari's voice came through on a priority channel. Admiral, I'm sending you coordinates for a weak point in their command ship. It's where they house their central quantum processor. If you can hit it precisely, the entire Devourer network will collapse. How do you know this? Because I've been studying captured Devourer vessels for months. I know how they think. I know how they're built. And I know how to kill them. Suji pulled up the targeting data. The weak point was small, heavily protected, and moving. It would require a precision strike that no ship could make alone. Commander Beak, I need your best pilots. You've got them, Admiral. 20 human ships broke formation and dove toward the command vessel. They moved in perfect coordination, their AI systems linking together to calculate angles and timing. The Devourers threw everything at them, destroying half the ships before they could get close, but 10 made it through. 10 ships, working as one, launched their missiles at the exact same moment, targeting the exact same point. The weapons hit simultaneously, and the Devourer command ship's core exploded in a burst of quantum energy across the entire star system. Every Devourer vessel went dark. 1 million ships, all connected to that central processor, all shut down at once. They drifted in space, lifeless metal hulls that would never threaten anyone again. The Council fleet didn't know what to do. They had been preparing to die, and suddenly the enemy was destroyed. On Axiom Prime, 10 billion beings watched the sky and realized they would survive. In the Grand Chamber, High Arbiter Menix stood slowly. They did it. Humanity actually did it. Of course they did, Ixthen said. We should have never doubted them. We should have never exiled them. This victory is ours, but the shame is ours too. The celebration across Council space lasted for days. Every surviving species praised humanity's courage, technology, and sacrifice. But in the quiet moments after, questions began to surface. What now? What happens to the galaxy with humanity so powerful? 5 weeks after the battle, Chancellor Kong Jinwoo stood before the Grand Chamber. The room was full again, representatives from 30 surviving species all gathered to thank humanity and discuss the future. But Kang's expression wasn't friendly. "You exiled us 53 years ago," he began without greeting. "You said we were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too aggressive. You were right. We are dangerous. But danger is not the same as evil." The chamber was silent. "For 18 years, the Devourers destroyed your people. For 18 years, you lost battle after battle because you refused to adapt, refused to change, refused to admit you might be wrong. 23 species are extinct because of your pride." Kang's voice grew harder. "We detected the Devourers 18 years ago. We sent warnings. You suppressed them. How many billions died because you couldn't admit you needed the species you exiled?" Several council members looked down, unable to meet his eyes. "We came to save you not because of your apologies or your offers of territory. We came because the Devourers threatened all organic life, including ours. We fought using our methods, our weapons, our tactics. The things you exiled us for are the exact things that saved you." High Arbiter Menix stood. "Chancellor Kang, we are grateful. We know we wronged humanity, and we hope to rebuild trust over time. Will you rejoin the Council?" Kang shook his head. "No, humanity will not rejoin the Galactic Council. We will maintain diplomatic relations. We will continue trade. We will even maintain our military alliance against future threats. But we will chart our own course. We don't need your permission to exist. We don't need your approval to thrive. And we will never again put our fate in the hands of species who might exile us when we become inconvenient." The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Commander Vexler stood. "You would refuse our offer? After we admitted we were wrong?" "You admitted it only when you had no other choice," Kang said coldly. "When your worlds were burning and your people were dying? That's not the same as actually learning the lesson. We've seen how you treat species you fear. We won't give you that power over us again." Ambassador Shin Minho stepped forward. "Many species have already approached us about forming alliances outside the council structure. They've seen how humanity treats its friends. We saved the Kaleri because they stood with us 53 years ago. We're offering the same loyalty to any species that wants it. Not membership in the council, but partnership with humanity." Over the following months, 15 species chose to align with humanity rather than remain under council authority. They signed mutual defense pacts, trade agreements, and technology-sharing arrangements. The galaxy was reorganizing itself around two poles, the traditional council and the new human alliance. Dr. Yu Nari led teams across former Devourer territory, using her deconversion process to free millions of cybernetic slaves. Species that the council had written off as lost were being restored to their original forms. It was slow work, but it proved that humanity could heal as well as destroy. 5 years after the war ended, Ambassador Minho met with High Arbiter Menix on neutral ground. The meeting was private, just the two of them in a small conference room. "The galaxy has changed," Menix said quietly. "The council is not what it was. Many species no longer trust our leadership. They look to humanity instead." "Is that why you wanted this meeting?" Minho asked. "To convince us to rejoin?" "No, I wanted to ask you a question. What does humanity want? Territory? Resources? Political power? We need to understand your goals." Minho considered his answer carefully. "We want what we've always wanted. To survive. To grow. To explore. To live without fear that someone will exile us again because we make them uncomfortable. The council demanded humanity's exile because you were afraid of what we might become. Now you're afraid of what we have become. That should tell you everything about who's really dangerous in this galaxy. You're saying we are the danger? I'm saying fear makes you dangerous. We're not your enemies, High Arbiter. But we're not your subjects either. We're just humans. We adapt, we survive. We protect our friends and punish our enemies. If the council can accept that, we'll have peace. If not..." Minho shrugged. "Well, you've seen what happens when you push us. Menix nodded slowly. I understand. For what it's worth, I wish the Council 50 years ago had been wise enough to see humanity as an asset instead of a threat.